Hi, good evening. Welcome to North Borneo Historical Society Facebook Live session together with me, Richard Kerr, the founder of North Borneo Historical Society. Thank you once again for joining us tonight. Tonight is the midweek, so it's a Wednesday, and we decided to do another Facebook Live session together with everyone. And this week we have a special guest, a local historian coming all the way from Keningau, which I will introduce shortly. So, just a bit of background on North Borneo Historical Society. It was founded in 2011 with the purpose of introducing Sabah's rich history to the world by using the social media platforms such as Facebook, websites, and all the other social media platforms. So, we have done quite a number of work over the last 9 years, especially in gathering all sorts of historical related information about Sabah, about North Borneo, into one single platform that people can go to and refer to. So, for without further ado, tonight we are going to do a bit of interesting session. As you know, if you have joined the previous two or three sessions previously, we did some interviews on the expats and some of the historians who have lived in Sabah before. And today we have our own local historian. His name is Abednigo Chow. He's actually a Sino Kadazan, just like me, born in Keningau. And previously he studied at the Asia Pacific International University in Thailand, and then at the Avondale College, not too far from Sydney, Australia. And he does a lot of research on local customary, the war years, and also during the colonial rule in British North Borneo. He's also an avid collector of anything related to from the era of North Borneo Chartered Company. And in 2016, he released a book called Keningau, The Heritage and Legacy in the Interior Residency. And I'm very fortunate to have a copy of this wonderful book. It has a lot of interesting history about Keningau, lots of information that you won't be able to find anywhere. And if you have the opportunity, please get a copy. And I'm not so sure if you still can get a copy right now. So without further ado, let me just bring Abednigo live on the screen. Abed, how are you?
Hey, what's up? I'm good. I'm good. What about you?
Good, thank you, thank you for having joining us tonight. So please, the floor is yours, and please make yourself comfortable and do a bit of introduction about yourself.
Okay, hi. My name is Abednigo Chow Yao Sheng. It's a long name, but people usually call me Abed for short because they couldn't remember my name. So I'm a writer and also a historian, and I focus on colonial history dating from the Chartered Company, Second World War, and colonial days. So so far I've written my first book about the history of Keningau, which is my hometown, and currently I am working on my second book, which is the North Borneo Police Force dating from colonial days until present day. Yeah, so that's it.
Oh wow, that's interesting. Okay, that's good. So as you know, just a while ago, I talked about you who wrote this book on Keningau, a wonderful book. Now give us some of the experience that you gained while writing this wonderful book.
Well, there are lots of experiences, and one of them is to hunt for information because the ones that most of the information that I would wanted to get my hands on were not that available here in Sabah because due to limited resources. So I have to travel abroad to different countries just to get what I need. So that involves like travel expenses, who do you want to meet for interviews, which document you require, and of course photographs. The thing is that whenever I write something or explain something, I would like to include photographs because the generation these days, they would rather having lots of photographs just so they could imagine and see how was life back then. Yeah, so getting those photographs wasn't easy. It's more like a treasure hunt to me.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, especially nowadays, right? Due to the people, they have very short attention span. They just want to look at photos. People don't really want to read these days, and that's why you see how Instagram came out. People just want to look at photos instead of like reading a lot of text. But to have a interest to have a holistic view of history, you need to be able to have connection collection of photos, and of course alongside together with the text as well. So I believe this book on Keningau has all those. I see. I've already read this. Has a lot of interesting photos inside, as you can see, and yeah, I think
Hmm.
it's a wonderful book, and thank you for that. Doing something really great
All
for
right,
some.
welcome.
All right.
Yes.
So tonight, just a bit of context with the audience. We just want to we'll be talking about the history of North Borneo and Sabah Police, which is, I think it's a very interesting topic because we will talk about the authorities, and of course the people who are involved in protecting the safety and the security of North Borneo back then and even until today. So I believe, Abed, your next book you'll be writing about North Borneo Police, correct? It's the same as topic for tonight.
Yes, yes.
So do you want to talk about just a bit of
It's
context
the same.
about your upcoming book?
All right. My second book is about the history of the North Borneo Police Force that began. Yes, North Borneo Police Force that began in 1881, when the British officially administered North Borneo, or present-day Sabah, because in those days, in order to have a proper government, you have to be safe. So in order to keep the peace and maintain law and order, you have to create a police force. So that's how our police force began, and how it was structured,
Mhm.
uniforms, weapons, and legislating laws, etc. So throughout the period since the early days until we gain our independence, the police forces had evolved tremendously in terms of administration, uniforms, ranks, and historical events that the police force took part with. For example, like fighting the rebels, the Japanese, Indonesian confrontation, fighting crime, piracy, and so on. So that's what I wrote about.
So essentially, if you talk about the history about the North Borneo Police Force, so it stretches all the way from the late 1800s, since the North Borneo was founded, basically, right?
Yes,
So as I
right.
think along those lines, I think there's a lot of different phases which we'll actually go through together. So tonight, without further ado, I think we're gonna make this really visual, as we initially discussed just now. People want to look at photos, right? So I believe you have already shared a bunch of photos together with us tonight. So let me just pull that out, and then we can have a look each one. So for each of the photo that we are sharing with the audience, probably you can just go through quickly together, because there's a lot of like photos. I think about 20 over photos, and probably for each one, you just
Okay,
have a
cool.
description of what the photo is all about. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. So
All
the
right.
first one, we're going to show the first one. It's this one. Okay. Do you want to talk about this one, Abed?
Okay. This is the North Borneo Police badge, or some people call it logo, that that was used during chartered company days from 1881 up until 1946. Okay. If you look at the logo itself, you can see the motto in Latin that says "Pergo et Prago," and the
Mhm.
lion. The lion symbolizes the United Kingdom, and this badge itself is unique because it doesn't have a crown.
Mm.
Because after the war, they added the crown, which means which means that North Borneo became a crown colony. So there are differences if you look at the chartered company police badge and the colonial police badges.
I see. So,
Yeah.
what is the? Do you want to tell the audience the Latin word? What does it mean again?
Okay.
Are you still here, Abed?
Yes, I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. Yeah. The Latin word "pergo et parago" means I undertake and I achieve.
Yeah. So it was a popular slogan back then. I think everyone who lived in North Borneo back then has to sort of like remember this tagline. I think it was also included in one of the national anthem of North Borneo back then. Okay,
Yes. Yes. Exactly. Yes.
let's go for the second photo. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's also another um, emblem. Okay, you want to tell us about this one? Go ahead, Abed. Abed, are you still there?
I'm still here.
All right. So Abed has.
Okay.
Okay. Do you wanna?
Okay. This one is the colonial police badge, police logo, used during colonial days from 1946 up until 1963. The difference between the chartered company police logo is that it doesn't have a crown. This one has a crown. So it means that we were under a crown colony.
In the crown.
That's the difference.
Okay.
Yes.
And then the next one, I believe these are all your own personal collection, right? Abed.
Well, yeah.
Okay. So these are the other three. So how about this one? Do you want to tell more about this collection?
Okay.
Go ahead, Abed.
But they are different. Yeah. These are the colonial badges. The ones on the left and the right are worn by the other ranks, like the lower ranks. The ones in the middle were worn by inspectors and gazetted officers. That's the difference.
So where did you get all this, Abed?
Well, some was passed down. Some of them, like one or two, was passed down. The other one was actually borrowed from friends because their like grandfathers were policemen since colonial days, so they managed to keep these items until today.
I see. Okay.
Yes.
I have another one. Let's go for the other one. This is, I think, more. All right. Okay.
Okay. This one is the Royal Malaysia Police badge, used since 1963 until 1997. Okay. And you realize that in the middle you can see a lion's head, a sword, and a keris. The sword, I mean, the keris itself represented the state of Malaya. The sword, or the ilang, is used by the Dayaks of Sarawak, and the lion head represented Singapore and Sabah.
Wow. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, but unfortunately, I don't know why in 1994 they decided to change the lion head into a tiger, but it was only totally changed in 1997 until today. So if you compare both, one has lion's head, one has a tiger's head.
I see. Actually, I actually have one question, right? So I always wanted to ask this, especially from a professional like you. What do you call the top post for the police in Sabah and Sarawak?
Okay, for Sabah in Sarawak, the name of the top post of the police are known as police commissioner or commissioner.
Interesting. Can you
Only
tell
in
me?
Sabah and Sarawak. Yeah, but if you go to the state of Malaya, they don't call the top post of the police as commissioner. They call it the chief of police, or in Malay they call it ketua police. Right? For example, like the chief police of Selangor or the chief police of Penang, they don't call it commissioner. The reason why was because in 1963, when Malaysia was formed, Sabah,
Mhm.
Sarawak, Malaya, and Singapore were equal partners.
Right.
So, and from there, the police of Singapore, Sarawak, and Sabah were known as commissioners. The Malayan police commissioner was upgraded into the Inspector General of Police.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but in terms
So it
of
means that
power,
you have the top post,
mhm,
or in terms of power, is in KL by the Inspector of General Police.
I see. Okay. So,
Mm.
so for even for Sabah, no, do you still call them commissioner?
Yes, till today. It has been that way since colonial days.
Very interesting.
Mhm.
Okay,
Mhm.
good. I think we have a few more photos, I think, related to the logo. Let's have a look. We have a couple more. This is actually quite cute. Can you see?
Which
Yeah,
one?
this one here.
Oh yeah, this is the North Borneo. This is the North Borneo Armed Constabulary button,
Mm.
used since 1922 until 1949.
1922 and 29. Okay. So where do
Yeah.
they put this button? Is it or just for the
Okay.
on
The
the
chest.
one?
The chest. There are two buttons
Mm-hmm.
on the chest, two on the breast pocket, and two on the shoulder. So 7 buttons altogether.
Okay. So
Mhm.
talking about when you mentioned about 1922, I actually have a very interesting footage that we just discovered a couple of days ago. It was actually shot by one of the North Borneo Historical Society member. So apparently, in
Mhm.
1922, there was an official visit from England back then,
Yes.
to North Borneo. Let me just show you a real quick of this interesting footage, because the reason I want to show it is because it's 1922, and it also has
Mhm.
sort of like the North Borneo Armed Constabulary queuing up while waiting for the
Mhm.
well, greeting the officials. Just give me 1 second. Let me just
Okay.
launch that, share that short clip with everyone. Just 1 second. Just
Mhm.
launching it because it's really really interesting. I just saw it actually very recently, and I believe everyone should have a look at this as well because it's really really interesting. So so if you can see my screen now, can you see my screen?
Mhm.
It says inspection of Indian Guard of Honor at Jesselton, British North Borneo. Now, I think
British North
for
Borneo.
yeah, so out of everyone's interest, there are very very few footages like this, especially before the war,
Mhm.
before 1940s. There are very few.
Mhm.
Even from our work for the past, for the past 9 years, we have encountered very few old historical footage. So this one is very interesting. So you just have a look. So it's a silent. There's no sound. You'll be able to see some of the
All
transition
right.
slides. Okay, you can have a look at the first 5 seconds, and then later I'm going to ask you, Abed, to comment.
All right.
So it's not showing. Yeah. Now this is the official visit.
Okay.
This actually took place in Jesselton, in North Borneo back then. So he was inspecting the guards, the Indian guards. So this historical footage, I think, is about slightly more than 1 minute, I think. So it shows you, probably because it's an official visit, and then there was like everyone was gathered, everyone was asked to attend. So it comes from all the different races, it comes from all the different tribes. So as you can see, this one here, so a lot of different native tribes. Says here, as you know, in those days there was no sound for all this historical footage. So people, they just use slides in order to explain what's going on with the footage. Yeah, so I guess these were the bajaus, right? I bet. Yeah, so this is.
Yeah, the bajaus.
So as you can see, some of the North Borneo Police was riding on the horse. Even for this one, the natives give an exhibition the use of blowpipe used for shooting poison darts. So even for this one, I mean, for the the blowpipe was it was interesting lah, interesting for those folks. So this collection is extremely rare to have historical footage like this. We don't get to see this very often. So hopefully we get, when people for North Borneo Historical Society members, if you get to see this, we find any interesting footage, please feel free to share with us. Meanwhile, I think Abed got disconnected again. Hopefully he gets to join shortly. Meanwhile, let's just enjoy the footage. Anyway, guys, thank you again for joining us tonight. We're still waiting for Abed to be connected. I think there was an issue with his connection. So tonight we're talking about the North Borneo Police. The North Borneo Police started in the late 1800s when the North Borneo Chartered Company just started. So Abed, I was just did a bit of introduction again on our tonight's topic. So we'll continue with the showing some of the photos, more photos that you have shared with us. This is the last one with some of the badges before we go into actual photos. So these are the buttons, right?
Okay. Yeah, this one was used during colonial days when North Borneo was under Crown colony from 1946 until 1963.
Okay.
Okay, you see the word says North Borneo Police. It's no longer North Borneo Armed Constabulary because the title itself was changed in December 1949.
So that was right after the war, right?
The war was 45, but when the war ended, the police force still retained the old name up until December 1949, and then they changed it to North Borneo Police Force.
Okay, that's interesting. So to the audience of North Borneo Historical Society, if you have any questions, please feel free to leave your questions on the comments section at the bottom of this video. So that before we end the session tonight, we'll go through some of the questions, and Abed will be able to answer some of your questions. Yeah. Okay, we'll have start sharing some of the police in uniforms. I think this is a newer photo. It was not taken ages ago, right?
Yeah. Okay. The person wearing this is my model because in my book, in chapter 5, I wrote about the history of uniforms, because if you look at all photos, most of the photos are black and white. Yeah. So I was lucky enough to obtain this old uniform and all of its accessories like the buttons, the rank, the lanyard, whistle, and the belt. And I managed to get a few people who are interested to be in the book as a model, so I have them wear this uniform. So from here we get to see how the uniform or the old uniforms look like in color. So there it is. If you look at the uniform, right, this person is wearing a red sash from his shoulder. See, okay, that red sash is worn by sergeants during official parades. Only sergeants wore them. Yes.
And sorry, what year was this worn? I mean, this uniform from what year to what year?
1946 until 1963. And when militia was formed in 1963, they still retained the old uniform. The only thing they changed were the badges, the ranks, and the buttons and the belts. That's it. They still wore the same uniform.
Okay. All right. How about this one here?
Okay. This uniform were worn by inspector and gazetted officers. Here you get to see that the color of the uniform is khaki, and he is wearing a bush jacket. And if you look at the rank, he has the ones on the shoulder. He has one pip. Means that he is holding the rank of probationary inspector.
Okay, it's quite nice. So what happened to this model? Are they still wearing this uniform around?
Well, not anymore.
Okay.
But I like the old uniform because this uniform is really suitable for our climate. You don't feel hot when you wear this kind of uniform, unlike the ones that they wore today.
Yeah, it's more loose, right? So your body can breathe basically.
Yeah, and the materials itself and the color.
Okay. Okay. Do you want to tell us more about this interesting photo? I have no idea actually, so you have to explain.
Okay. Okay, this photo was taken when our North Borneo Mobile Police just came back from Brunei in December 1962, because in Brunei in 1962 December 8th there was a rebellion.
Okay.
If you Google it, you can read about it, about the Brunei rebellion. So the rebels wanted to overthrow the kingdom and the sultan, and help was requested by the British, and the first unit that came to assist Brunei was the North Borneo Police, and they sent this unit known as the Mobile Police to assist the Bruneians to maintain law and order until reinforcement from Singapore came.
I see. I see.
Yeah.
So how many went to Brunei for this support?
One platoon.
One platoon.
One platoon, and those that went, only one were killed.
Okay, so there was still casualty lah.
Yeah, there were still casualties. When they arrived, they defended the airfield and the power station before reinforcements arrived.
I see. And you have all these stories detailed out in your book, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now tell us about this interesting photo.
Okay. This photo was taken in 1946 in London during the Victory Parade. And the person that you see is Sergeant Korom. He's a Murut from the interior in Pensiangan. And what made it interesting was because he was a war hero. He fought the Japanese, and first he started to resist the Japanese with the underground, and then he was captured but managed to escape. And later on, towards the end of the war, he joined the guerrilla forces with the commandos.
So basically this was like an acknowledgement of his contribution. So he was, I don't know, he was flew to London for this special ceremony.
Yes, a few of our policemen, including those from Sarawak in Malaya and Singapore, were flown to England to take part in that parade. And for his contribution for the war effort, he was awarded the MBE, the most member of the British Empire.
Okay, it's almost like what? It's like a datuk ship, is it?
It's not a datuk ship, but it's like similar to our EDK. It's like Ali Darjah Kinabalu.
I see. Okay. Interesting. I think I have seen one more clearer photo of that one, which I'll try to share with the followers. By the way, we have our own Instagram account. If you guys haven't followed, please be sure to follow, because some of the photos that we are sharing will be different from the Facebook page. It will be more some of the interesting photos to be shared there. So make sure you follow us. You can find our Instagram account called northborneo.history. So let me just pull up another photo. Okay, this one I'm really curious about this one.
Let's see. Okay. This photo was taken during colonial days, and the person wearing this uniform is Datuk Clement Jaikul.
Okay.
This photo was taken when he was an inspector, and he was wearing a review order uniform.
What is that?
And Datuk review order uniform.
Do you wanna explain, because that's totally unknown to me? Do you wanna share what does that mean with the audience?
Okay, they usually wear this uniform for ceremonial purposes, like official events. for officers. Yes. And Datuk Clement was the first Kadazan to ever reach the rank of Senior Assistant Commissioner.
All right. What year was that?
Which one?
When he was promoted?
Right before he retired. I think it was like in 95. Yeah,
Okay, it's quite not too long ago, lah. I think. But all right. Okay.
not long ago. And he enlisted right after he finished his education and started as a constable. So he rose up the ranks.
You see. You see.
And
All right.
okay, this is him present day.
Okay. And what is that? It says at the back, North Borneo Police Force, Marina Barracks, opened by Her Royal
Okay.
Highness the Duchess of Kent. Okay.
Okay. Because our police headquarters is located in Kapayan. After the war, they moved the police headquarters from Jesselton to, but in those days it was known as Victoria Barracks in Jesselton. So after the war, they moved the headquarters to Kapayan, and they constructed a new building for the headquarters. And when the building was finished constructed, it was officiated or opened by the Duchess of Kent, and they named that building after her. That's what it was called, Marina Barracks, and it still exists today.
I see. So you mentioned about the previous HQ or the headquarters of the police was, what is it called again? Victoria Barracks, right?
Victoria Barracks. Yes.
And it's located at the present day, very near to Karamunsing, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, around that area, Karamunsing. Well, to be precise, it's near around Queen Elizabeth Hospital, that area.
Hotel. Okay, hospital. Okay, all the way there. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. We have still a lot of more photos. I think probably we should have look at this one here. Okay.
This was taken 2 years ago with myself and 4 veterans of the North Borneo Police Force. The ones next to me is Datuk Clement.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Those 4 veterans actually enlisted as a policeman since colonial days. So they've seen a lot of action.
So this was this taken during a special event? It looks like there's it's like an Anzac Day or something. Is it?
Yes, we were having a Memorial Day in Keningau in remembrance of those who took part during the Indonesian confrontation.
I see. Okay. I think we have a couple of more. I hope the audience are so far enjoying some the photos. Let's see this one. Okay.
This person is Sergeant Major Jeffrey, and he was sent to Sipitang during the Brunei Rebellion, because when the rebellion broke out in Brunei, it spilled over to neighboring colonies of North Borneo and Sarawak. So the ones in North Borneo, it went as far as Sipitang and Western. So he was dispatched to Sipitang to actually meet and fight the rebels, which they won. And if you look at the weapons that he's holding, it's a carbine, only issued for the North Borneo Mobile Police Forces.
Oh, okay. So in terms of weapons, right? How did the weapons were used? I mean, evolve from the beginning until today. I'm pretty sure. I don't know. Maybe in the late 1800s, when the North Borneo Chartered Company just started. What kind of weapons did they use? Did you get to do any research on that?
Yes, I managed to did research on that, and the ones that they used, commonly used, were the Martini Henry rifle.
Right.
Martini Henry and Maxim gun. It was later in the early 20th century that they started to use Lee Enfields.
Okay. So we have the various types of weapons, lah, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Well, just for your information, I think Datuk Clement Jaikul is online right now. He's actually watching our show tonight.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah,
Welcome, Datu.
welcome, Dato. Thanks for coming tonight, joining us with Abed. I'm sure you have already spent a bit of time with Dato Clement also, right? For some
Yes.
interviews. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I think we have.
And most of the photos came from Datu Clement because wherever he went, he always bring a camera with him.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean that's the best thing. I mean, if you think about it, when we were growing up in those days, we didn't really have access to cameras quite easily, right? But nowadays, it's you have your phone in your hand. It's
Hmm.
really easy to take photos and of everything. And this a lot of photos that you take will become very meaningful in the future. Okay.
Hmm. Hey. This is retired Sergeant Major Jeffrey.
Can you tell us more about Sergeant Jeffrey?
Well, he has lots of experiences. He served since colonial days until he retired, and he has lots of medals. And those medals actually represented all the theaters and his services in the police force, dating from colonial days until present day. Mhm.
So it was quite a
Achievement.
achievement, a lot of contribution as well, right? Yeah,
Yes, in defense of the country, especially for Sabah.
yeah. Now, as you mentioned, I bet you also do a lot of, you collect a lot of historical items related to North Borneo days, right? Which, in fact, one of the
Yes.
things that I also collect some of the interesting, um, collection as well. I have actually um, managed to get this one. It's a rare item.
It
It's
is rare.
yeah. So this is base. This is. Do you want to tell us more about this figurine?
Okay. Okay, this figurine was produced uh, in the old days during our chartered company days, and that policeman that you are holding is actually the North Borneo Armed Constabulary before World War II.
World War II. So
Yes,
I
and
believe
that
there was.
company, yeah, and then
Continue.
that company itself, they produce lots of figurines on each British colonials and territories based on the police forces or military. So for North Borneo, they managed to produce our police forces figurines for collection purposes, and those are rare today, and it's gonna cost a lot of money.
Wow. Okay. So I was lucky lah. I think when I bought it, it was not too expensive lah back then. I just found it over the internet. Actually, it was bought in Australia, and then I got someone to ship it here to Malaysia lah. Okay. I have
Yeah,
another
really
photo.
lucky.
Yeah. Now, how about this one?
Okay, this photo was taken in 1952 when our North Borneo mobile police were sent to neighboring Sarawak to help the Sarawak Constabulary to fight against the communists.
Yeah. So obviously,
And
because
this
I
photo shows that they were and
continue.
this photo
Continue.
shows that they were marching towards the Kuching court from the war in Kuching town itself.
Mhm. Yeah, because I can see from the background, it doesn't look like it was taken in North Borneo anywhere.
Yes.
Okay. A few more. We still have a bunch of photos to look at,
Mhm.
to enjoy. I bet I actually have a question.
Okay.
I want to ask real quick. So is Sabah Police, is it under state or federal control?
Well, before independence, it's under Sabah itself, which was known as North Borneo. But since we became part of Malaysia, our early leaders decided to have the local police placed under federal control. Meant because security, internal and external, is under the federal government's responsibility, and that's why our police today is under federal control. But if you look at Australia, it's different. In Australia, they have two different police: state police and federal police. So each state has its own police, and they also have a federal police, where the federal police usually only handles federal cases and they cannot get involved with state cases. But the situation in Sabah is different. Everything's under federal control, especially when it comes to security, internal and external. That's the differences.
I see. Okay, that's an interesting fact to know. Okay, we have another one. I think this is taken after the war. I think.
Okay, this was taken in September 1967 on the retirement day of our last British police commissioner for Sabah, named David Brodie Goodsir. This was a farewell parade held for him.
Okay. And I was actually, they're actually wearing a very interesting uniform with short pants and high socks. So in those days, I think it's pretty common, right? These kind of uniforms.
Yes, it's pretty common, and it's based on colonial designs. If you look at all the colonial police, it's the same design.
Design. Yeah. Okay. Because I know, Abed, you have a certain hobby as well. I know you also have, you wear certain types of uniforms. Not uniforms, like actually, you were trying to be a Power Ranger, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Cosplaying, yes.
Cosplaying.
I do cosplay sometimes. Yes.
Okay. All right. So, guys, ladies and gentlemen, if you have any question for Abed to talk about ask about North Borneo Police or anything like that, please feel free to leave your question in the comments. We still have about 5 minutes to go through. I think we have a couple of photos left for us to share tonight. And so far, I have been enjoying all the sharing done by Abed. I surely can't wait for the book to come out and to really immerse ourselves into all these interesting stories about the North Borneo Police. Let me just pull out another photo. I think this looks quite a recent photo. Okay.
This is the photo of Superintendent Paula Jumin, the commandant of the Police Volunteer Reserve for Sabah Component Police. Because our police forces are divided into three parts: the regular policemen, the auxiliaries, and the reserves. So Superintendent Paul is the commandant for the reserve police.
Okay, so tell us more about this police volunteer reserve. I mean, what is the difference between the normal police and the police volunteer reserve?
Okay, have you ever heard of the Reserve Army?
No, I have not.
Okay, the reserve means that they will only be called when there is an emergency or urgency to support the main force in maintaining law and order.
Okay.
As a civilian like you and I, we can join if you want to join. You either can join the auxiliary or the reserve. So the auxiliary police and the police volunteer reserve assisted the regular forces in maintaining law and order if there is a need or there's an emergency or they need more manpower. Or in other words, they are the backbone of the regular forces.
I see. So I want to understand more about because I think if you were given me a choice, if there's a time machine, if you want giving me a choice to go back to the past, I would choose the time before the war, probably around 1920s, 30s. I think probably those are the best times for North Borneo. So how was it like, to be a police in those days? Do you know? I mean, was it a job that people want to do, or is it people look up to the police when they serve the civilians back then? I just want to know a bit the angle from based on the research that you have done.
Okay. In the old days, becoming a policeman is a very respectable job because you get paid, and they also provided housing, travel allowances, and also free medical. And in the old days, you only need, in order to become a policeman, you must have a certain level of education, and the lowest level they would accept was primary two education, as long as you can read and write, and
Right.
having a good physique. Okay, but if you don't know how to read and write, you can also enlist as a bugle boy when you're
Sorry.
16 years old, a bugle boy.
Okay.
Okay,
Continue.
and okay, and if you don't know how to read and write, they will also accept you, and they will teach you how to read and write during training courses in the old days.
Hmm.
And most of the cases in the 20s and 30s were only like theft, murder, and combating piracy, because our coastline, especially on the East Coast, were back in the days were crawling with pirates. So
That's
it
good.
was the job of the police to actually fight off the pirates from invading or plundering the coastal towns. And sometimes the police were assisted by the Royal Navy sent from Singapore.
Even in the before the war, or is that after the war?
Even before the war, because in 1888 North Borneo became a British protectorate. So external defense is under the responsibility of the British government.
Right. Right. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. I mean, I've also encountered one of the rarest photos, whereby this we have a bunch of North Borneo policemen who traveled all the way to London.
Mhm.
I think it was a Jubilee celebration. I can't remember
Yes.
exactly.
Yeah.
So where they were at the, I think they probably one of the first few Sabahans who actually went to
Yeah.
London
Yeah.
during those days,
Let's
right?
look at the photos.
Let me see if I have it. I don't think I have it with me right now, but that's okay. I mean, it's quite interesting because if you look at it, I mean, imagine in those days when flight was still not available, so you have to take the steamship, basically traveling with the ship from Jesselton, and then you will sail all the way to Singapore first, and then Singapore, then you travel all the way to Europe. That would actually take about roughly about 30 days to up to 45 days just to for a single journey.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's correct. Yes.
compared to today where you have to you just if you fly from Malaysia to London, basically will take you just about 13 hours, and compared in those days,
Exactly.
yeah, you travel all the way. I don't know how would you spend 45 days in a ship and then getting all the way to London with all the time difference and a new environment, and probably get a culture shock or things like that. But I
Yeah.
mean, we can talk more about that when they hopefully I can find the photo. We can actually start um, answering some questions. We have a question
Right.
from David.
Yeah.
David asking, Abed, do you know the names of the police who received certificates in 1950 for helping the Aussie prisoner of wars?
Yes, I do have the list, but it's in my computer.
Okay. Do you
I don't
want to
have the
tell us
list.
more? Tell us a bit of the background of this.
Okay, because during the Japanese occupation, the police force came under the Japanese command. They replaced the British officers who were captured and interned in POW camps. But most of the policemen remained loyal to the crown. So they did what they could to help the Australian prisoners who were held in Sandakan by supplying food, information, radio parts in order to resist the Japanese. So those men who survived the war and those who did not survive were awarded for their bravery in assisting the Australian prisoners of war.
So that was in okay, interesting. So when just as when the war was ended, there was actually a group of um, I think Australians who came to North Borneo to assess, even from some of from the UK, to assess the impact of the war, right?
Yes, exactly. And those who assisted, let it be the policemen or the natives, were rewarded for their efforts and sacrifices.
Right, right. Okay.
Mhm.
I think I have one more photo that I forgot to show. Can you just tell us more about this one?
Okay. These were the ceremonial uniforms worn by the lower ranks. It's in white uniform and with a red kepi or songkok.
Oh, okay. Then Songko, is it? Okay, interesting.
Yeah, it's a red songkok. And these uniforms were worn by members of the police force when we have special guests visiting, and they have to line up as the guard of honor. And the guest itself, like let's say a governor or royalty or someone important, they will inspect the parade itself.
Okay. If I'm not mistaken, I think when I visited the Sabah Museum a couple of, I think probably last year or 2 years ago, I believe there was some sections where you can actually, you know, look at these uniforms, right? Are they still
Yeah,
around?
that's the uniform. It's still around. That's the
Yeah.
uniform.
Yeah, I think these are some of the things that which are very interesting. I think a lot of our history, yeah, we tend to forget, but thankfully we have the Sabah Museum, especially who still which still keep a collection of all these different uniforms worn by our police force. We have another question for you. Nina Bengon. So I grew up in the 1960s. Abed, can you describe the interesting white straps wrapped around their legs?
Oh, okay. That is known as an anklet.
Okay.
Okay, an anklet to cover the boots and the high socks. The high socks, it's called a horse top. So in between that, they usually wear that white anklet just to cover the boots, and they usually wore that during ceremonial events. They are still wearing it today.
They're still wearing it today.
Yes, for ceremonial purposes.
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. Actually, I managed to find the photo. Let me just save it real quick, and then we will
Mhm.
show it to the audience. This is actually the one that I mentioned. It was taken in London, and I believe the one that I showed you, the figurine, the small figurine. I think they're wearing the same type of uniform. Can you just give me 1 second? I'm just gonna show that real quick. So I bet, what is the process of your book now? I mean, what is the progress? Are you almost done? Is it ready for printing? Because I think a lot of people are very curious and they wanted to, to read.
It should be ready for printing. It's still being edited right now, like proofreading, checking the grammar for mistakes, because the manuscript itself is 300 pages long. So if you add the photographs, it should be around 500 pages altogether.
500.
More or less, yes.
Wow, that's quite a lot.
Yes.
Yeah. So just 1 second. Yeah, I'm just gonna copy that photo, if I can. So and then Abed, in terms of for your experience doing all this different research on all the research that you've been doing for your book, what is the most interesting one for at least for your upcoming book on the North Borneo Police?
The most interesting thing during,
Yes, anything that you
well,
did. Yeah, yeah.
knowing the different periods of police organization, events, and the weapons and uniforms used.
Events and
That is the
different
most
types of
interesting part.
uniform. I see. Anything else that
Yeah,
you think?
uniforms, weapons, organization. Anything else?
Yeah, anything else?
Yes. combating piracy. That
Mm-hmm.
combating piracy has been going on since 1881 until today.
Yes, I think that's everybody knows that right until today. Even the way you combat piracy, it's not just using people nowadays. It's even using various types of technology. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, this is the one of the most interesting one.
The Jubilee photos, and those policemen were actually Dayaks, actually.
Dayaks. Okay, but
Yeah, because
definitely.
in the old days,
Mm-hmm.
our policemen were mostly Sikh Indians and Dayaks enlisted into the North Borneo Police Force. Our local police force only enlisted in 1903, starting with the Murut first, and then the Dusans a few years later.
Mm.
So in the early days, our policemen were mostly Sikhs and Dayaks, and a few Chinese. And most of the Chinese were posted with the CID department.
Sorry, what department is it again?
CID, Crime Investigation Department,
Okay.
in the old days.
Yeah, so even if you just look at this amazing photo, right? There are like probably about 15 of them, 15 or 16 in the photo.
Mhm.
They probably, imagine in those days when they told their families, "Hey, mom, dad, I'm heading to London for this Jubilee, Golden
Jubilee
Jubilee
Parade.
Jubilee parade." So I don't know what was the reaction of the people back then, especially if you are going to be sent all the way to the other side of the world. Must be really huge. So as I mentioned, they are probably the earliest Sabahans who went to London, and in fact, the person right in front, I forgot his name, but he's actually, if I'm mistaken, the nephew of Sir Stamford Raffles, the founder of Singapore.
Mhm.
Yes, he has an
It's him.
affiliation. Yes. Anyway, okay, I think we have just a couple of minutes left. I just want to ask you one last question,
All
Abed,
right.
because I think you've done an awesome work for Sabah, doing all these different kinds of research, and then writing this book on Keningau, and then your upcoming book about the North Borneo Police. So, how do you think we can inspire more people, from Sabah to write more about our amazing history?
Well, love your country and always preserve your heritage, because from there you will be able to know more about your local history and appreciate it better.
Yeah, so I guess from your book, we'll definitely hope to get more people inspired to learn more about Sabah's history. I mean, even
Yes.
for now, when we started North Borneo Historical Society in 2011, there was no a single page about that talks about Sabah's history. Now you can find different groups, Facebook groups,
Mhm.
and people are sharing all sort of different history about Sabah. I think that's very encouraging. I see groups like Sejarah Sabah, North Borneo. There's also our Sabahan history group. Those kind of groups, you can find them on Facebook already. People are actively talking about all sort of history. Even us, we cannot catch up because yeah, people do a lot of contribution. So anyway, Abed, just want to thank you again for spending time with us tonight. I think hopefully the audience enjoyed tonight's show talking about the North Borneo Police. A lot of the people are, truly inspired and also excited to know about, the police force who have been contributing to the safety of Sabah people for all these years. So anyway,
Mhm.
thank you again. We wish you all the best with your upcoming book. Please be sure to let me know. Let me be the first one to know. Yeah, once it's ready for release, so that I can
Sure,
get the
I
first.
will. And thanks for inviting.
Right. Thank you again. Hopefully we'll get in touch. Probably we can talk about some of the topics, maybe about Keningau. I think it has a lot of interesting stories from here as well.
Yeah, yeah,
And
sure, sure.
thank you to the audience. If you have any questions or suggestions, please feel free to reach to us. And thank you, and we wish you a good night. Thanks.
All right, good night.
Good night. Good night.